So here we are, it is time for another Nottingham Forest transfer window that can only spell pure chaos. Of course it is early days in the summer transfer window, most teams haven't really done a great deal of business so far, but Forest have actually been linked with a fair few players already and seemingly have already put in a few bids for players, so getting business done early for once does actually seem like quite a logical thing to do, rather than leaving it to the last minute and you sign 7 players on deadline day. Let's not do that again, Forest. If you could please like and subscribe to Rads, then that would be fantastic. Obviously slightly less content right now because it's the off season, but yeah, please do that. I'm going to look briefly at players who could leave the club. Of course, Murillo and Morgan Gibbs-White have been linked with moves away. I'm not going to look too in depth at that because I don't think it's really caught enough traction yet in terms of it being a real thing that could happen. Now obviously there's a big talking point that we need to raise 20 million by the end of this month, or we will get another points deduction or some kind of punishment, probably points deduction. Forest seem confident that by selling Mangala for around 25 million maybe, and then selling fringe players like Joe Wall and Jonathan Panzo, Alex Myton, Lewis O'Brien, Hwang Dennis, players like that they can raise enough. But can you sell all those players in time? I mean, none of those are really being linked with anyone in particular. So it does seem a big ask to see us sell all of those players in time. I just hope that there's a scenario where we don't have to sell one of Murillo or Morgan Gibbs-White or even Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's been kind of in this conversation. Murillo is gaining interest from some very big teams, Arsenal, Spurs, PSG are also interested in him. Atletico Madrid not too long ago were some pretty big teams, right? Not as big as us, of course. I hope he doesn't leave, and it's the same with Morgan. Yeah, we're going to get rumours regardless, I think, of those players leaving, but I'm really hoping that they won't. Mangala does look to be all but certainly joining Lyon. That's pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's really sad, honestly. There's only one Forest player at the Euros this summer. The only other one that's technically still a Forest player is Mangala. It does say a lot about his level. He probably will play a fair few games for Belgium, so we're losing a big player there. Let's just hope that we can replace him and handle it without him. The only other player that I've seen with any kind of proper rumoured interest is Lewis O'Brien. He's being linked with a move to quite a few clubs. Preston and Sheffield United I've seen come up, but the main one being Ipswich Town. It would be a good move for him, honestly. I mean, if he was to go to another Premier League team, that would be quite frustrating, really, because that clearly means that he could cut it at this level. I still think he probably could if he was given a chance, but he's clearly not going to get that chance at Forest. So that does look like it's going to be a thing that's going to happen. He's going to leave. And the only other one is Omar Richards. Well, I was talking not too long ago about him potentially staying at Forest and he can be a backup left back or even maybe a starting left back, but he's probably going to join Olympiacos permanently. So that was fun while it lasted. Let's look at incomings. Now, again, some of this might just not happen, but some of these do look like 100% real interest. Starting with the man that we have been linked with in the past, Che Adams from Southampton. I think this would be a really smart bit of business, honestly. A good backup option to Awani and Wood. I think both of those two are still really important. Will Awani stay? I hope he does. I think it could be an option to sell because you could still get a bit of money for him, quite a bit of money. And with his injuries, it's not quite as bad to lose him as opposed to like Murillo, for example, or Gibbs-White. Don't think he will leave just yet anyway, but a third striker is needed anyway. We can't rely on just those two. And Che Adams, okay from the Championship last season. He did get 15 goals last season in the Championship, 49 goals in nearly 200 games for Southampton. I think he's someone that isn't like really good, but I think he is a very experienced and proven player, really. So as a backup, at the very least, I think it'd be good, but I think he's the kind of player we could rely on if we had to. So I'd be pretty for this, and it would be a free signing too. Wolves are interested in him as well. Only it might also drag on because apparently Adams wants to decide his future after the Euros have happened. So probably not got that long to wait because are Scotland going to get out their group? Probably not. It wouldn't be a transfer window if we weren't linked with some Brazilians. Let's talk about Carlos Miguel. Great name, but is he a good goalkeeper? Well, I do know for sure he is very tall, nearly 7 foot. Is that because we're so bad at set pieces? We want someone to be able to jump and get the ball to avoid anyone else having to do any kind of thing. He just comes and jumps for it. Maybe, might be. He's only played 32 times for Corinthians, the club that we signed Murillo from, so We've got a good track record from signing players from Corinthians. West Ham also have interest in him, and apparently he has a £10 million release clause. We could get him for a bit cheaper than that, apparently. Is he going to come in as a first choice? I think it's probably not an area that we need to be focusing on as much in terms of getting a first choice goalkeeper. Definitely we need competition that we can actually trust for. Obviously Matt Sells, Turner and Vlachodimos aren't going to want to be here, and they're not very good. So we're going to need a goalkeeper, but I will feel a bit bad for Matt Sells if he gets replaced, because some people were a bit critical that I was defending him in the previous video, but I feel Sells did his bit. He definitely played a big part in keeping us up. Imagine if we didn't have him. I don't think we would have stayed up, honestly. I think we would have been a lot closer. Speaking of goalkeepers still, we may as well talk about Sam Johnstone. Also rumoured interest again. We're surfacing about this one because we were linked with him in the January window too. So we clearly have real interest in him. Obviously him and Dean Henderson, ex-Forest goalkeeper, both at Palace. They're in an incredibly strong position at the moment. 2 England internationals at the helm. Neither of them are going to want to play second fiddle. They're both too good to be a backup goalkeeper. So one of them's going to want to leave, and it does look like it's going to be Johnstone. He has got a rumoured release clause also of 10 million, so that is actually a very plausible kind of thing for us to do. I don't really think you can do any wrong with this. I think it's probably the best option we could possibly go for. Like, if we want to like tie down that position just for a few seasons again, where we don't have to worry about it, as good as Matt Sells has been, Sam Johnstone, surely that's a no-brainer that he's your first choice goalkeeper. I think that would be just amazing if we got that done. Another Brazilian that we're being linked with, a centre-back, probably linked with the fact that Murillo could end up leaving. Played for Shakhtar Donetsk, and in the last couple of seasons he's been out on loan in his homeland in Brazil. 24 years of age. It's Vitaro. You probably haven't heard of him. I haven't heard of him, if I'm honest. Apparently this one could also cost around about £10 million. West Ham seem to be very interested in our targets because they're also apparently interested in this guy. His contract expires at Shakhtar Donetsk this summer. He's been out on loan in Brazil the last few years, like I say. So yeah, he's technically a free agent. Only I'm not sure what's happening with that, if I'm honest. But I do know there's been some pretty strong interest in him. 112 appearances for International. I've definitely said that wrong. It's international, but without the T. So, yeah, I don't know how to say it. And one more rumour in. Obviously, there'll be more as we go into the summer window. This is also a player that we've been linked with in the past, resurfacing. Florentino Luiz from Benfica. We were linked with him last summer. Fulham and Everton are interested, so Premier League clubs as well as Forest want him too. 24 years of age, a defensive midfielder, which is just what Forest need. Is Ibrahim Sangare the option? Possibly not. He's even been kind of linked with a move away to Galatasaray, only that apparently wasn't real, so I'm not even going to talk about that much at all. That's it. I've spoken about it there. Checky Kouyate's left as well, and obviously he wasn't, well, he definitely wasn't good enough, so we're going to need to get another player. Obviously Harry Arter's left too, so you've got to replace him. The big one though is obviously replacing Mangala. Now, Mangala wasn't an out-and-out CDM. He played there a lot. He could obviously play a bit higher up sometimes. It does look like Luiz is an out-and-out CDM. Rated around about £25 million. I've heard, and this was a while ago, he has a £102 million release clause. I doubt we're going to pay that, but I know he's got a ridiculous release clause. That's what I know. But we're not going to get him by paying that, because that would be I wouldn't even put it past us, honestly, if we tried at this stage, just because of how mental Marinakis is. 45 appearances last season for Benfica, which is a very strong feat for a club that are obviously one of the best in Portugal. Obviously playing European football too, so a very good return there. 131 games for Benfica. So he's got a good track record, and he's only 24, so I think that would be an interesting one. I'm not going to claim to know much about him. I don't, apart from that. Because we signed so many players before, and it's kind of just not really worked in certain aspects. I just want to try and remain neutral, even though that's kind of impossible. That is all I've got to say, really. There's been a few other things going on, but I've only picked out the most interesting and seemingly the most likely ones. Obviously, there's other players that are going to be linked with moves away, more players that are going to be linked with signing for Forest. That was a bit of a mouthful. Signing for Forest. But yeah, that was my early look at how things might just unfold this summer window. I do hope we're sensible, and I do hope we can keep hold of our main assets at least for another season. If you have enjoyed this, please hit the like button, subscribe to Rads if you're new. And yes, obviously it's the off season at the moment, it's not even pre-season, so there is a bit, you know, of a void at the moment in what we can talk about. Obviously transfers is one thing, so that's why the channel's a little bit more quiet at the moment. And yeah, it's probably going to stay that way a bit longer, but as the summer goes on, there'll be plenty of content looking ahead to the new season, transfers, etc. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, everyone, and yeah, up the Reds.